So we have gone from the beginning of my career where things were pretty good in our neighborhoods. California was booming. The housing developments were going up all over the place. Businesses were opening all over the place. Construction, my friends in construction were making a killing in the construction world. And then we went to this completely different agenda, this very, very liberal socialistic agenda, and everything has changed. Construction is pretty much stopped. You can't really make money in construction anymore in California. Crime is going through the roof. We have gotten to a point right now where our businesses don't even report crime anymore. It's just the cost of doing business, like if the theft and the rampant theft and the smash and grabs and all those things. It's just a cost of doing business here. So it's a business plan where you build in the theft, the cost of the theft into the cost of the things that you're selling. So now we're paying more for all the goods and services that we buy because they have to make up for all of the theft because we won't hold anybody accountable. It's a bizarre place in law enforcement where I have gone from the beginning of my career to really being empowered to go out and fight crime to now with my officers. My daily job as the sheriff is to make sure that I maintain morale of the ones that want to come here and make a difference and serve the public and protect people. I've got to maintain their morale because the laws that are being passed here are preventing them from doing that.
My name is Derek Wolfe. I'm a Super Bowl champion and a 10-year NFL vet. Now, after a decade of professional football, I'm focusing on my other passions. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Wolfe Untamed. Today's guest is Sheriff Bianco. He's been a sheriff in Riverside, California for 31 years. On this episode, we're going to talk about what's coming for Colorado because he's going to fill us in on all the stuff that's going on in California, all the injustices and all the crazy stuff that's going on. So stay tuned. This is going to be a good episode. Sheriff, thank you for giving us the time, man. I'm really excited about this episode because I think there's a good opportunity for us to talk about kind of what's coming to Colorado here.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's a lot of I don't know if you've heard of the book called The Blueprint.
No.
But it was the Democratic Party's plan, their 20-year plan for Colorado. And it was all started in California and they've just kind of moved it over. Yeah. So they've just kind of moved it over to Colorado and started implementing the same type of ideas. And I think it's just going to be a really good opportunity for us to inform people on what's gone on. Somebody who's on the front lines in California and knows what's happening. And to kind of get like as a warning of to what's to come if we don't rise up and make a change here and start, consequent elections have consequences, right?
Big time.
And the people that we vote in, right? If we just vote on party lines and not on particularly on ideas and issues that are really going on, we're going to end up in the same place as California is.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a saying that's California, and it's been for decades and decades and decades, way more than 20 years, but it's so goes California, so goes the rest of the country. And it's been like that forever. The problem with that is California is going in the toilet. And now all of these progressive ideas that we've had here that have truly been being pushed for 30, 40 years are now coming to fruition throughout the rest of the country. New York, obviously Colorado. It's nuts that people will leave here. Well, it has to be an agenda because everyone leaving here to go to other states is leaving here because the state is broken. Income taxes, gas taxes, the cost of living, the amount of regulation and taxes on businesses, everything here is bad. Our schools suck, our roads suck. It truly is getting horrible, even to where Democrats are now saying, holy crap, how did this happen? And how are we going to fix it? But the problem with the whole thing is we're like 10, 15, maybe even 20 years ahead of everyone else. And everyone else is implementing the policies that California has had previously. And they're not successful policies. So why these other states would try and bring them to fruition in their own is beyond me.
Yeah, it really does blow my mind. It's funny because I'll just give you a quick little story. So I was the first house in the cul-de-sac here. And then finally this next house got built next to me. It was the last house to get built. And when I met the neighbors, I was like, oh, where are you guys from? And they're like, oh, we're from California. And the first thing I said to them was, I hope you didn't bring your politics.
Yeah,
because it's true. They leave a state that sucks, and then it vote the same way in another state and destroy it. It's almost like, are they really that indoctrinated that they can't see what's happened?
I honestly don't know. And I really, it'd probably be a good documentary to start finding these people and interviewing them and seeing and finding out why they left California and then finding out how they're voting. Because Democrats are leaving California because of Democrat policies, but they flock to these other places and then vote Democrat. It makes absolutely no sense. And it's this where we are in the world of politics where you vote party line no matter what. You mentioned it earlier. We've never voted for character. We've never voted for integrity. It's just you vote party line, and that's the way it is. If you were raised a Democrat, you always vote Democrat. If you're raised a Republican, you always vote Republican. If you don't like the candidates, you just don't vote, which is even worse.
Yeah.
And politics is just absolutely broken, truly because of the absolute lack of integrity, honesty, and character. And then we get these agenda activism policies and rules and laws passed. And the general public, because we're apathetic and we aren't paying attention because we're working, we're going to school, we're taking care of our families, our businesses, all those things. And we don't pay attention to actually what's going on in government. And then all of a sudden we say, hey, where did that come from? And then you learn that, well, that was imposed 10 years ago. You just weren't paying attention. And it's a crazy place that we're at. And this whole part about politics where you have to hate people if they don't vote for who you voted for is just completely ruining society.
Oh, absolutely. Have you heard of the 90-10 rule?
Yes.
And I really do believe that that's true. That most of us in this country, we're all Americans. I think that 90% of the issues we agree on, and there's that small 10% that we disagree on, and that's what the media focuses on. That's what the politicians focus on. Because how do you divide and conquer? How do you conquer somebody? You divide them. You keep them divided and infighting. And it's the art of war. It's like the oldest trick in the book is, do you want to control the public? You keep them fighting and arguing over one or two issues instead of focusing on the things that they have in common.
Yeah.
As American, especially as Americans, like we're allowed to have opposite views. Like that's part of being an American, and it's okay. You don't have to hate your neighbor because he has a different view than you. Like that's okay. It's like totally fine for somebody else to believe in something different than you.
The whole idea of our country was just what you just said, the premise of freedom from government oppression, from government thought, from government control. We can think and feel and do whatever we want as Americans, and that's what makes us unique. And now we're at the point where you can't think anymore. You get canceled if you think different than what someone else wants you to believe, or you fight, or you're enemies, and all these things. And the whole thing about conquer and divide, this was the Russian communism, socialism playbook from the early 1900s, where they said that America will never, ever be defeated. Our pride for ourselves and our country and the fight that we have for that freedom, the fight for freedom is so great. No country is ever going to destroy America. We must be destroyed from within. And in order to destroy them from within, you have to divide them. You have to divide them socially. You have to divide them economically, create working classes and the all these different, the rich, the poor, the middle class, and all those things, divide everybody by hatred of those groups, get rid of the religion that we have, get rid of the freedom of a religion that we have. And then as all of these things progress, then we'll destroy ourselves from within. And truly, that's almost the point where we are right now, unless we can reverse it.
Yeah, and I do see a lot of places are changing for the better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because there's this next young generation, these kids that are just now coming out of high school. They're like kind of fed up with it too. They're kind of fed up with being told what to think.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like in our DNA as an American to not want to be told what to think. You can't don't tell me what to do and what to think, because I'm a free man or a free woman. I'm free to do and say what I want to say and believe what I want to believe. And when they try to control that, you're right, man. It is a communist, socialist idea. It's ideology. It's socialism all the way through.
Yeah, it really is. And I think that these younger kids now, and we see this, we hire at 18. So if you want to go into the correction environment, we'll hire you at 18. If you want to be a deputy, you have to be 21. But the Gen Z and the even a little bit maybe of the millennials are getting a bad rap because they all don't believe the same. And this whole Gen Z thing is completely different because the age groups from like 15 years old to 25 years old are completely and have been affected by this oppression, this basic, they were forced out of school. They couldn't go to school. They couldn't go to churches. They couldn't go to gatherings with their friends. They couldn't play sports. They couldn't do all of these things together. And they're realizing, hey, wait a minute, that's not what America's about. And then they're smart enough and they're thirsting for knowledge so much that they had to go find it on their own. And now we're seeing these kids that we're hiring, these 18-year-olds and up to really 25, maybe a little bit more, is they are predominantly very, very conservative. And they have the idea of how can I work harder to make more money? How can I make this place better by what I can do rather than what do you have to offer me and when are my days off and when am I going to get a raise? That's the entitled mentality. But these younger kids, they have been victim of a government oppression. You hate to say it like that, but they've had so many things taken away from them that they know that's not how this country's supposed to be, and they're fighting back.
Yeah, and it's a lot of the issue is I think that it all starts in the family, right? They've ripped apart the family that because America was built on like in the boomer years, right? It was built on like, hey, you build a family and you instill values in your family, and then there's a mom and a dad and and there's like a 2-parent household, and you teach your kids the right way to do things. And what they've done is they've ripped that apart. Right? They've made it like so difficult for there to be like a mother to be a stay-at-home mom for the average family because it's so expensive to just survive, and pay rent and pay your mortgage and pay your insurance and pay your property taxes. And it's just in grocery, everything is so expensive that you don't have that like typical family that that structure of family that is supposed to be there. And so what's happened is that these kids are getting pawned off on the government, which is the public school system, and they're being indoctrinated. So it's that old saying, don't be surprised when your kids come back Romans when you send them to Caesar. And that's what's happened. That happened for a long time. That all these, but now you're seeing a shift in that where I think the number was so drastic of how many fathers are like are at home doing fatherly things compared to what it was like 20 years ago. I remember when I was a kid, nobody's dad was home. Everybody's dad was working.
And that was the fact of life.
Yeah. It was just like their dad worked. The dads worked, and then the moms stayed home and took care of the house and took care of the kids. And it was like that dynamic. That's what was going on. But you've seen that just get ripped apart completely.
Yeah. I've read a lot about the whole feminism movement and about, women's rights and everything else, and how it was really constructed by communists and more of a divide of how you can destroy that family. And I mean, especially, I don't know, you get in trouble sometimes by what you say, but a real man believes 100% that women have the exact same rights as we do. There is absolutely nothing less my wife is nothing less than what I am. And that this feminine movement was such a big push to women go out and do these things and get out of the house and go get your job and go do all of this and worry about your career and all these things. And that really destroyed the family because it took the family from when you grew up, it's like, well, I'm going to get up, I'm going to grow up, I'm going to move away, I'm going to get a job, I'm going to find a nice wife, I'm going to have a family, I'm going to raise my kids. And then that took the woman and said the woman's out of it now because the woman is going to go do her thing until she's 35, 40 years old. And then they don't have kids anymore. Then they're not even getting married anymore. And it had nothing to do with women's rights. it was about separating family, and it was getting rid of the family construct and the whole. I mean, it's real. I mean, if you're a religious type of person, especially, but men and women, the men from Mars, women from Venus. I mean, that's real. My dad was the disciplinarian. My mom was the love part. And she took care of us when we were afraid of dad, and dad took care of us when we needed protecting. And those are the things that's how you grew up. And that's how you became a man. And that's how the girls became women. And all of that's really been taken away from us for some other agenda that truly destroyed our families. It destroyed the family construct. It destroyed how America truly was built. And it was just a further divide of how we could separate into classes, where women were separated from men, and this whole thing that we have to be different, and it's just crazy. And if you study history and you go over all these things, it's like, man, this was very calculated. And not only did they accomplish what they were doing, but they told us what we were doing along the way, and the majority of us ignored it. And now we're suffering the consequences.
Yeah. Well, yeah. When you talk about like how the feminist movement, right? There's nothing more feminine than raising a family. Like being a stay-at-home mom, that is a hard job. It is a very difficult job because there's a lot of responsibility there, because you are responsible for raising your children, right? And if you decide, okay, I'm going to have kids, but I'm also going to pursue a career, your kids are being raised by nannies and by the school system, not by you.
Exactly.
And in turn, that's what happens. You get these kids that are just like, they're entitled. They think that, we should all be the same. That, they're listening to people like Bernie Sanders and AOC and all the stuff that they're talking about. And it's like, well, how come you're allowed to be worth $30 million, but I'm not? Why is it okay for you? It doesn't. And that's where the indoctrination has started at a young age on these kids. And it's sad, because the only way to keep them from it is to send them to a private school, and that's expensive.
Yeah, absolutely right. That's really, as far as California goes, that's the problem why people are really leaving California. There's 3 reasons. Business. If you own a business, your business is being forced out of business in California. Regulation and taxes. If you work in a business, the taxes, the cost of living, and all those things are driving you out, because you just can't afford to live here anymore with the cost of homes, the cost of gas, the cost of food, electricity. It's just too expensive to live here. Or it's the schools. And you're like, man, not only can I not afford the cost of living, I can't afford to send my kids to private school, but I certainly am not going to send them to the public schools in the complete disarray that they are here in California. And so everyone is leaving. And that's the problem that we're having here, that now it's coming to Colorado, because we're just several years ahead of you. And eventually the people will be leaving Colorado for the same reasons they're leaving California.
And it's already happening. It's already happening. Sheriff, it's happening bad. So the people who are like sensible and have common sense are up, and they're just like, I'm getting out of here. They've made it impossible for me to like thrive here.
Yeah.
So I'm getting out, and people are leaving, and you're just getting more of that Democrat, like super far left ideology.
Yeah.
Let's just call it what it is. It's socialism, Marxism ideology that's sliding in. And the more you see it, and it's when we talk about like these public schools, I don't know if you see it over there, but it's not even so much like most teachers are good people. Like it's just like police officers. Most police officers, like 98% of police officers that I've ever dealt with were awesome people. It's a hard job to be a kindergarten teacher and, dealing with somebody else's kid for 8 hours a day. Like, that is a hard job. So what I've noticed is that it's not so much the teacher's fault. It's that the teachers are overwhelmed they've got 20 kids in their class, right? How are they supposed to keep an eye on every little thing that each one of those kids does in an 8-hour period?
Yeah.
I noticed it with my 5-year-old, where she comes home and she'll like have like a certain type of attitude about her. And I'm like, where did you get this from? What is this attitude? You know, and it's because one of the girls in there is, or one of the other little girls she's running around with in there is not being parented the same way as she's being parented at home. So, and that it all rolls back to, it's your job to parent your kids. Like, you have got to parent your kids. I had we had this little girl come. So I drive a Cyber Beast, right? I drive a Tesla Cybertruck. This little 5-year-old girl goes up to my 5-year-old daughter and tells her that Donald Trump's a bad person and that I don't like your dad because he drives a Cybertruck. Why are you talking to your 5-year-old about that? They should be worried about learning how to read and learning how to do math, not worrying about Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Like, when I was 5, all I cared about was playing with my friends and going to school, learning how to read. Like, that's all you cared about. Why are you worrying? You're already indoctrinating them. So it starts at home.
Yeah, it certainly does. And in the school system here, we see it, especially in the laws that have been passed and the regulations on schools and just the way they run their schools here. And you can go back to when you were in school, and especially me. I know I'm probably a lot older than you, but they say that the kids in my school, my classmates, we all didn't get along. And there were fights outside of class, and there were cliques and everything else that were outside. But in school, we were all just in school and everything was fine. In the classroom, we all respected the teacher. We all knew that we were there to learn. We all knew that we had to behave. And you do whatever you want on weekends and outside of school. But in school, there was a different mentality. And here in California, that is all gone. And why I'm saying that is, back when I was in school, and even, maybe 15, 20 years ago here, there were alternative schools where the kids that just would not behave in school, that were causing all the problems with the fights and the bullies and the drugs and the crime and everything that was going on, that were disrupting the other kids from learning, they went to their own school. They all went together, and there was a different mentality there, and how they were taught and how they behaved and everything else. But the learning environment of our schools was kept secure, and that's no longer the case here. These kids have absolutely zero respect for their teachers. They have zero respect for authority, and all of that is coming from home. It's coming from how their parents deal with them, or how their parents talk to other people, or how they, that lack of respect for your fellow person, your neighbor, whatever it is. And that's the problem here, is everyone is avoiding now public schools. So now they have to pass laws to say that the private schools and the charter schools have to be taught the same and have the same rules and regulations as public schools, because no one's going to public school anymore. It's so strange that this agenda that is obviously wrong and obviously not working is still being forced upon us. But I do believe that you're right, that people are starting to finally wake up and finally see the difference. And I think that I've always said that our cell phones they're it was an absolute fantastic invention, but everything that has something good about it can always be used for something bad. So the phones are great. I mean, we have a computer in our pockets. We can do anything we want with them. But the problem is we have a computer in our pockets, and we're being manipulated on how to think and what to think by other people that have an agenda. And I think that's what is happening. Is now it's evolving to where what used to be the media that was forcing all this information down our throats, that's what we tended to believe, we're actually able to choose which ones we want to watch and listen to now. And we're seeing that, holy moly, we've been lied to for the last 10, 15, 20 years.
We've been being lied to since World War II.
Yeah, well, probably so.
They've been lying to us and manipulating us. I mean, the entire school system was created by Rockefeller.
Yeah.
Right. And he did that to create workers.
Yeah.
He didn't create the school system to create entrepreneurs.
Or certainly to educate.
Yeah. It wasn't to educate. It's a holding cell for people that are going to come work in your factories one day. And that's really what it is. It's a holding cell. And it's like, you're going to do what you're told, and you're going to listen, and you're going to, it's just a crazy idea that we just allowed it to kind of happen. Hey guys, I want to talk to you about one of my favorite sponsors, Juniper Mountain Coffee. Coffee without compromise. You're getting high quality coffee without the high prices. This is an American company that stands behind their values. They stand behind their coffee. These guys make some of the best coffee I've ever had. It's a coffee I drink every morning. Juniper Mountain Coffee works directly with the farmers, paying fair wages, and that way you have no middleman. There's no BS, no garbage. You're getting high quality products. So go check them out at junipermountaincoffee.com. You know, I want to talk a little bit about the kind of the policies that are going on that have been passed that you've seen like a real change, because you've been in service for what, 31 years? You've been working for 31 years for the sheriff's office in Riverside?
Yeah, I'm in my 32nd years.
I mean, that's a long time. So you've seen, I mean, what can you just walk me through the changes that you've seen and what the consequences to those changes were?
Yeah, so it's completely different from when I started to where we are today. And where it was when I started in the early 90s, 1993, we were coming out of a very high crime, lawlessness, really a lot in California, but it was across the country. And we went from a very liberal, back up just a little bit. California, Democrats have been in control of the assembly since 1956 and in control of our Senate since 1958. So Democrats have been running this state since the 1950s. And we've only had several Republicans throughout history, 4 of them really, since that time, that we've had a little reprieve, that we've been able to stave off this complete liberalism that really is destroying California. So during that time, leading up to in the 70s and the 80s, we had 60s and 70s was really horrible, bad crime. We had a whole bunch of policies changed with Republican governors that were able to change policy, procedure, direction into a more there's consequences for criminal behavior, and we're going to hold criminals accountable. And it was a more anti-criminal environment. So it was very law enforcement was good. We wanted to go out and enforce. We wanted to keep people safe. And that carried into the 90s. So I came in at the point where we were reaping the benefits of hard-on crime policies. If you committed crimes, you go to prison. Especially if you were a repeat offender, you were definitely going to prison. And no matter what it was, you suffered some type of a consequence. It wasn't a slap on the hand. It wasn't a simple fine or something like that, especially for repeat offenders. But from the 90s on, from the late 90s on, major shift toward a more restorative justice, they called it, of people aren't responsible for their actions. And what we have today in California is a mentality that it's you and I that cause people to be criminals, because we are somehow privileged that we have more just naturally. We didn't earn it. We weren't a better person. We didn't work harder. We didn't behave ourselves. We didn't commit crimes. We didn't earn our house. We didn't earn our car or our property or our position, our job, or anything like that. It was given to us. And the people that it wasn't given to, the criminals, it's our fault. It is become, in California, it is society's fault that we have criminals. And these criminals were forced into criminal behavior because they were oppressed or they were abused or they were whatever it was when they were growing up, or who their parents or their grandparents were. It's a bizarre mentality. And what they have here, and it's a very stated policy right now, of there will be no law written. And they're changing laws to take away criminal punishment, but there will be no law written that adds a punishment of jail time to any crime. So for instance, fentanyl is the number one killer of people in the US, and it has been for 4 years now. And California will not pass a fentanyl bill to make it a felony, or to make it a felony punishable by murder if you supply fentanyl to someone that causes them to die. They won't change the laws because that's going to cause someone to go to jail. And the liberals here, their job is, or their goal is, to close all of our prisons and close all of our jails and never hold anybody accountable. So we have gone from the beginning of my career where things were pretty good in our neighborhoods. California was booming. The housing developments were going up all over the place. Businesses were opening all over the place. Construction, my friends in construction were making a killing in the construction world. And then we went to this completely different agenda, this very, very liberal socialistic agenda, and everything has changed. Construction is pretty much stopped. You can't really make money in construction anymore in California. Crime is going through the roof. We have gotten to a point right now where our businesses don't even report crime anymore. It's just the cost of doing business, like if the theft and the rampant theft and the smash and grabs and all those things. It's just a cost of doing business here. So it's a business plan where you build in the theft, the cost of the theft into the cost of the things that you're selling. So now we're paying more for all the goods and services that we buy because they have to make up for all of the theft because we won't hold anybody accountable. And it's a bizarre world, especially in the law enforcement world, when we can't get these politicians to see the horrendous consequences that these laws that they're passing are having, whether it's an unintended consequence or sometimes I believe it's an intended consequence. They're doing exactly what they want it to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a bizarre place in law enforcement where I have gone from the beginning of my career to really being empowered to go out and fight crime, to now with my officers. My daily job as the sheriff is to make sure that I maintain morale of the ones that want to come here and make a difference and serve the public and protect people. I've got to maintain their morale because the laws that are being passed here are preventing them from doing that. So it's all about just go out and do everything you can. And we can't worry about what politicians do or what judges do or anything like that. We just have to be going and making sure that we're doing everything we can for the people that we're serving, the residents of our county, on a daily basis. And if it involves arresting the same person every single day for a year, then that's what we have to do.
Yeah, and that could be daunting. I mean, that is, and we're seeing it here. I have a really good friend who's a first responder downtown in Denver. He's a really close friend of mine. And he said that the DAs and the prosecutors here will not prosecute criminals.
Yeah.
Like he said that the fentanyl is running rampant. He said that he's a firefighter. He said for every one fire that he puts out, he's given Narcan like 5 or 6 times for every one fire. And he's like, sometimes you get the same person 3-4 times in 1 week.
Yeah. This is creating a, well, for here, I mean, we talk about the homeless issues and we give them needles, we give them drugs. We've made drugs legal here in California. There's a bill right now to make all the paraphernalia, the meth pipes, the crack pipes, and the needles. They're going to be all legal here. I'm sure they're going to pass it. And it's enabling this entire section of society to be basically dependent on government. You're dependent on government money, you're dependent on government housing, and you're completely addicted to the drugs that they're allowing you to get. And then you have nonprofits who are taking in millions and millions, sometimes billions of taxpayer dollars to facilitate all of this. And it's
corrupt.
It certainly is corrupt. There's no other better word other than complete corruption of taking our money from us and enabling the government to just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, give the money to their friends and their associates, and sometimes probably themselves through backdoor channels. And it's truly destroying society. Whether it's rampant crime, whether it's the homeless industrial complex, whether it's the drug issues that we have, the border crisis that we had, at least that's taken care of now. But you can see that it's all on purpose and with an agenda.
Yep. And I'll give you an example of a little bit of that, because there's a bad homeless situation here in Colorado as well. Downtown Denver is pretty bad. Some of these major buildings downtown are being condemned because the homeless are overrunning it, right? and the city will allow, our mayor will allow that building to be overrun. They'll condemn it. Then the city will buy it for pennies on the dollar, sell it to their friend for pennies on the dollar, and then get their kickbacks. And that's what's happening.
Right. And then fund that nonprofit that their friend owns for that building for more money for the homeless. Yep. And the cycle just keeps going with the revolving door of taxpayer money.
Yep. And it's crazy that we'll keep funding it. Because if you don't pay your taxes, you go to jail.
Yeah.
And that's where they got us. They got us. I mean, not to be rude, but they got us by the balls. You know, they do. They really got us by the balls there with the taxes. Because at the end, I always say that our forefathers, if they came back, they would just kill us first for allowing this to happen.
Yeah, they probably would.
Because it is outrageous what's happening. I mean, to think. So when I was in the NFL, we would, I played for Denver, so we'd play in California twice a year, and sometimes 3 times a year if it was like a playoff game or something. But every time I played there, 57% of my check was gone.
Yeah.
57%. I was like, what? This is incredibly ridiculous because in the NFL, you pay taxes in every city that you play in. Where you play, that's where you pay the taxes. So when you playing in California twice a year sucks because that's a ton of money that they're taking from you. And you don't get to earn that money for like a long period of time. So it's, you get a short period of time in the NFL and then they're going to take it from you and then call you an idiot for going broke when you're done. Like that's kind of how it goes. But what do you think? Do you think this all started with like the elections of the prosecutors and the DAs? Is that where the problem lies?
So yes. So I think we talked about it. We hit on it a little bit, and it goes back to the school system. The school system is no longer an education system, and we have to completely realize that and start being honest with colleges and universities. I was taking an online class a couple of years ago, and the instructor wrote a paper back or sent a paper back to me with corrections. And it was a research paper. We had to write a research paper. And when I got it back, it wasn't my paper. Sent the wrong paper to the wrong person. And I read this paper. There was not one complete sentence in this entire paper. It didn't make sense at all. The spelling was horrible. It was horrible. And the corrections on the paper were so minimal. It was crazy. And so I just sent it back and I said, hey, as soon as I opened this, I realized it wasn't mine. And then they sent me my paper. And I mean, I'm not a genius. I've got a college degree and, I make a living out of writing as a cop. And so because we're online and because we're doing this whole thing, you have classes or you have groups with the friends that you have that you meet in these classes. And I was in a group with the person that they sent me the paper. And so I asked them what grade they got on it. They got an A.
I'm sorry. I know I'm looking at my phone, but it's because I wanted to see what the reading report in California was. And it says that 58% of the third graders are below grade level in reading.
Yeah.
58%. More than half of the third graders don't know how to read.
65% they can't do math.
That's insane. I mean, how can that be? I mean, how does somebody pass the grade? And it's just what you said. it's because teachers are just like, whatever. We just want them out of our class. So they just push them through.
You get to the college level, and the college level now is 100% indoctrination. And it started before I was a kid. It was in between when my dad was a kid and when I was a kid, because college wasn't pushed on my dad. You could get a job, you could go to the military, or you could go to school if you wanted, but it wasn't pushed on anybody. But my generation, my dad having kids, it was you have to go to college or you're not going to get a job. You're not going to get a good paying job if you don't go to college. And then my generation or my kids' generation, it was just a gimme. there was no other option. When you finish high school, you just go to college. And
rack up a bunch of debt.
Absolutely. And here's the racket. You get all of these people, myself included. My wife and I busted our asses to work hard. We both worked. We did everything we could. We put our kids in private school. We did everything we possibly could to give them everything that they wanted growing up, whether it was toys or fun things or trips or whatever the case may be. They had everything. We had a great life of raising our kids. And then we send them off to school. We're trying to pay for their school and everything else. We didn't really want them racking up the debt and all those things. And then we learn that they're starting to hate us. They're starting to hate the country. They're starting to resent what we believe and what we did to them because we oppressed them. And thank goodness, all of my kids, they're not as conservative as when they went into school, but they never came. They didn't completely go liberal. But for my friends, their kids, they all sent them to college, sent them away, paid for everything, got everything all taken care of for them, and now their kids are just complete left-leaning, anti-America, anti-capitalism. Capitalism gave them their life and sent them to school for free. And they hate capitalism now, and they resent their parents for everything. So the big failure or the crazy thing is for all these conservative Republicans or just patriotic Americans who believe in the country that wanted to do right by your kids, you sent them away and paid for them to be indoctrinated them to not like you. Yep. And to not like the country. And so this has been going on since I was in school. So this indoctrination has produced very anti-American, very socialistic people and in their beliefs. And then they became teachers and they became professors. And then they started teaching that to all of their students. So now my DA is very, very conservative. He prosecutes, he believes everybody, he's a good, solid DA. But he said that way more than half of his DAs are very left-leaning liberals that don't believe that anyone should be sentenced to jail or to prison. And those are the prosecutors. But that's all that's coming out of law school is a very far left progressive agenda because that's what they're led to believe when they go off to these schools. And now we're seeing that they're even being taught in elementary school. I mean, certainly high school level, but the junior highs and the elementary schools are doing it too.
The only way it goes back to the beginning of our conversation. The only way to fix it is at home.
Yeah.
It starts at home, right? And then look, you could do everything right. You do everything right with your kids all the way up and you send them to school and you pay for their college. And what do? They turn their backs on you, and decide that they hate capitalism. And then it's funny because a lot of these people I know when I first got to college and I was, 20, when I was like 19, 20 years old, I didn't understand taxes and any of that stuff. I just didn't understand it. And then when I got in the real world, I was like, oh, okay, now I understand like why people are conservative and why they think this way. It's because people feel like they're entitled to your earnings.
Exactly.
Why do you think that you're entitled to my hard work? It's not yours. It's I earned this. I did this. I did the work. You didn't do that. Just because you didn't do the work, you had the same 24 hours I did. You had the same 24 hours that I did. And circumstances are better and worse for some people. But at the end of the day, we live in the greatest country on the planet.
Absolutely.
That's why everyone wants to come here. So the entitlement has to go away. We have to find a way to get rid of that.
Yeah, the entitlement and the victimization and the belief that you're a victim, the victimhood, all has to go away because this country was formed on the premise that we are all equal and we can do anything that we want, what you want. You can achieve whatever it is you want. Obviously within reason. I mean, you can't, there are certain things. Let me say for you, for instance, you achieved professional football. Not everybody can achieve professional football, but they can certainly work hard to try and get there.
Yeah, and you can try.
Absolutely. And so if you want to work hard at your job and get promoted and do all of those things, you can make more and more and more money. If you want to open your own business, make more money. If money is what makes you happy and things make you happy, then more power to you. But it should be your choice. And those things are all being taken away, and they're being, I mean, you don't get that anymore. And they're just saying, oh no, everybody's equal. This whole equity thing is just not true, because if you and I are in the same position and I just sit in my chair all day and do absolutely nothing, and you're busting your ass, not only doing your job, but covering for me and doing my job too, we are not equal. I should not get paid the same thing that you get. You should be paid way more than I get. And you should have more benefits of promotion and everything else than what I get. We're not equal if we're not putting forth the same effort. So effort is what makes you, is the equaling factor, not just because you got in the position. But somehow in society, we're moving to that whole socialism thing where we want just everybody to be equal, and we want everyone to believe that you're all equal, that everybody gets a first place trophy, even though you didn't win a game. That mentality that started 20 years ago is what we're living with today, where people are offended because of failure. And the reality is you can't succeed if you don't learn how to fail, or if you're afraid of failing. You're never, that's character. That's what builds you, and what makes you the person that you are is that adversity that you overcome and that failure that you experience that you don't want to do again. So you work around it and you work harder maybe, and you do something different so you don't have to experience that again. That's what makes us great. That's what makes the country great. That's what made us great. But that's the lack of that right now is what's harming us.
And how do you think we get back to that?
I think we're getting to a point where with this new generation, there's a middle generation. It's the older generation from me and maybe even, and it's not every single generation, because every generation isn't made up of all the same people. So there was predominantly more socialists in the age range from 25 to 45. There's more people that believe in socialism is good, that were indoctrinated into that belief, than otherwise. But from 50 and above, that's not the case. And now we're seeing that from 15 years old to 25, it's no longer the case either. So it's just going to be a section of society that we're evolving through, that we get to where things fix itself. Because we're realizing now, I mean, all you have to do and look at, we're now talking about trade schools. It's like, if I had a kid right now in high school, I would be telling them to go into electrician or vehicle maintenance, one of the a welder, a plumber, one of those trades that nobody is in anymore because nobody wants to work hard. And they could make anything that they want for themselves because it's a wide open field. And so we're seeing schools are concentrating on trades now, and parents are more pushing their kids into a trade than they are that education that's just giving them $100,000 to $200,000 of debt and really not an education. And so lots of things that are changing right now that I think that as we evolve, it's just going to slowly happen. It's not going to change overnight because it didn't happen overnight. So now it's that societal pendulum that goes back and forth. And I think we're on the way back. We're just going to have to now suffer with some of the consequences that we allowed to happen over the last 20, 30 years.
All right, guys, I want to talk to you about a product that I've been using for a long time, over a decade. When I was playing football, one of my main staples in my diet was bison. I got my bison from Great Range Premium Bison. They make some of the finest cuts of bison you can get. These guys have ribeyes, ground bison, all the steaks that you want. My favorite part about Great Range is that you don't have to worry about antibiotics or growth hormones in their meats. Great Range Premium Bison is a family-owned company providing bison meat from family-owned ranches around the country. So please go check out greatrangebison.com. I'm just going to switch gears here, but can you just walk me through like a day, like the stuff that your deputies deal with on a daily basis, right? Just out in the streets on a beat. What kind of things are they dealing with that when you first started, you didn't have to deal with?
I think it's all the same. I think it's more prevalent now. So when we still had a drug problem, we just actually fought drugs back then. And that goes to the whole thing about how we're not winning the war on drugs. So, but reality is we were winning the war on drugs. And when they all decided that let's just make drugs legal here in California because we're not winning the war on drugs and people are, mass incarceration, going to prison, all this garbage things that they said. And so what we see now with homelessness, drug addiction, mental illness, drug-induced psychosis, that's really what it is. We actually were winning the war on drugs, and now we're not even doing it. So drugs are destroying our society. So we still enforced drugs. We still had gang problems. We still had crime problems. The difference now is it's just more prevalent. There's crime has always been on the rise. Especially recently, certainly the last 5 years, the pandemic started a major crime increase. So 1920, crime really started going up across the country. But a lot of the things that we deal with are societal. It's a change in society. It's okay to fight with your neighbor, to get in an argument and a pushing match in the grocery store over something stupid. It's okay for road rage. It's okay for you to drive like an idiot and cut people off because you're entitled to get to wherever it is you're going faster than someone else. So the courtesy and the respect that we used to have is completely gone. And when I say that, I'll give you a perfect example. When I was a deputy, if we were going to arrest someone, I mean, you went and you arrested them and, sometimes they'd fight, sometimes they wouldn't. So, they'd resist a little bit, but you arrest them and they go away. You put the handcuffs on them, all bets are off. They go in the car and they go. If a criminal, a truly hardened criminal, if they decided they didn't want to get caught and they were going to run, there was a consequence. We were going to chase you. It's a foot pursuit now. And at the end of that foot pursuit, I knew and they knew if I caught them, there was going to be a fight at the end of that foot pursuit. And they were either going to win and get away, or I was going to win and they would end up in handcuffs. And when it happened, when they ended up in handcuffs, we were friends. They were talking to me about, man, I didn't think you were going to catch me. And I didn't, whatever the case may be. And it was okay because that was just, there was a respect. I gave them respect. They gave me respect. It was my job to catch them. It was their job to get away. Now they are entitled to steal. They are entitled to run away from you. They are entitled to argue with you and resist. And we even have politicians telling criminals to resist law enforcement. And now it's all about videos where no one wants to help a victim. They just want to video it and they want to hope the cops get there so they can somehow make money from that video. And so law enforcement is no longer there to arrest bad people and to truly protect people and help people. We're there as really keep the peace, try and stay off of a video, be nice to everybody because you never know, where that lawsuit is going to land or where it's going to end. And it's a different mentality that our deputies have. They're still trying to do the right thing. We're still arresting people for selling drugs, transporting drugs, those types of things, for gang banging, for shooting people, for burglarizing somebody's house. We're still trying to get people's property back. That's never changed. It's just the morale issue of there's not a consequence anymore for criminal behavior. That's where it's really changed. And it's demoralizing when you may spend a lot of effort trying to solve a serial theft caper and find the people and get them in custody and recover some of the property, give it back to the victims. And then that person gets probation. And it took you 3 weeks to solve this case. And the judge just gives them probation and lets them on. They do absolutely zero jail time. There's zero consequence. That's the demoralization of law enforcement that is hard to overcome right now.
And they're enabling the criminal.
Oh, yes.
You're enabling them and making them think that it's okay to act this way.
I'll tell you how exactly I'm going to give you two examples of the enabling of criminals. Back in 2014, they passed a bill. It was the downfall of public safety in California, and they lied to us. They called it was initiative. It was voter approved. 66% of the people voted, but nobody knew what they were voting for because the name of this proposition was called the Safe Schools and the Safe Streets Initiative. Basically, so 66% of the people said, yeah, I want safe schools and safe streets, but they really didn't know what they were voting for. And it basically made most felonies misdemeanors. One of the things that it did is it increased the amount of theft to $1,000 from $400. Immediately after that passing, as deputies, we were going to like the Walmarts, the Costcos, the things like that for people that were stealing in these stores, in big box stores. The first thing they were stealing was a calculator to add up the rest of the items that they were stealing. And when the deputies would get there, they would show the calculator and say, it's under $1,000. You just have to give me a ticket and let me go. We were enabling them to commit crimes. And you would think that it would be better now, but there's a bill right now sponsored by a Democrat in our Democrat legislature that's probably going to pass that is going to make it legal to fraudulently steal less than $25,000 of welfare funds. What? So as long as you don't go over $25,000 in your welfare fraud, it's legal.
Oh my. How does that even come up? Like, how do you, what are you sitting around? You're sitting around one day and you're like, you know what would really help society? If we let these people commit fraud against the taxpayers.
Yeah.
And take money away from people that actually need it.
Yeah.
That is insane.
And that is where we are in California. It's been decades in the making, but that's where we are right now.
Are you seeing any kind of change? Are you seeing any change, or is it just getting worse and worse?
We're coming into a very unique time politically because we are super majority Democrat. They do anything that they want. The last 2 years, especially this year, is very, very unique because last year and in 2023 and into 2024, Gavin Newsom, our governor, was posturing to either be the presidential nominee or the vice presidential nominee on last year's ballot. When he didn't get it because there was no way that the rest of the country was going to vote for someone from California when California has been destroyed. And he was part of destroying California.
Isn't it like a $9 billion deficit or something like that? It's some crazy number.
No, I think it's closer to 60.
I was being generous.
Yeah. Oh, yes, you were. It's absolutely ridiculous here. But Newsom now is posturing for a presidential run in 2028. So he is now completely distancing himself from the progressive left. And he's actually, if you listen to his podcast, if you listen to his tweets or read his tweets and his social media posts, you would think that he's actually a Republican. He's talking crap about the Democrats. He's fighting back about these crazy bills that they're trying to pass because he knows that he has to do that if he's going to be able to compete in a nationwide election. And so now there's a little bit of, we don't have to fight so hard because he's fighting for us too, because this far left liberal establishment that is this love affair for criminals, especially in the public safety world, he's got to fight back against it. And so they're not able to do all of the things that they've been able to do for the last 10 years. There's a little bit, we're able to fight back a little bit. So for instance, there was one bill that they wanted to take away your ability to protect yourself, self-defense. And the nature of the bill is that if someone approached you and we'll take you and I. So if I approached you and I threatened you, this bill would have required you, the first thing that you did, you had to run away. You couldn't protect yourself. You couldn't do anything. You had to run away. So then because if it was my actions, so I came at you with a knife and I told you that, give me your money, whatever it is, you punch me, knock me down, and I hit my head on a curb and die, you would have been charged with murder. That's what this bill that they were trying to pass 2 months ago said. And we were able to make that, we got that out on social media. I mean, I posted a video that thank goodness was a viral video that explained what was going to happen. And the outcry from the public was so great that they removed this bill from the floor, which never happens. That's not how they just hide them for another year. It's called a suspense file, but they removed it. And now last week, the Democrat, super-led Democrat refused to protect 16s and 17-year-olds from human trafficking. So 15 and below, that was already in the law, but they would not add 16 and 17-year-olds. And so that got voted down. Public outcry was huge. Even Newsom said, because the news was questioning him on it, and he said, look, that's wrong. We have to protect 16 and 17-year-olds too. So they had to bring this bill back. And now it looks like it's probably going to pass, and we'll add 16 and 17-year-olds so we can protect them. But that's the lunacy that's happening in California still. But we're able, with social media, with public outcry, and now with a failed politician that wants to remake himself, we're able to fight back a little bit right now, but we're still fighting against complete insanity. It's not even, I mean, you can't even, how do you argue that? How do you say that it's okay? Like as a dad, and most of them, and I'll even say a mom, I mean, you can, as a mom or a dad, how do you say that it's okay for your 16-year-old daughter to be human trafficked?
Yeah, I don't understand that. I don't understand why. How is that how does that help anyone?
It helps criminals.
Yeah, exactly.
It keeps people out of jail so they can close their jails and close their prisons. That's their ultimate goal. And unfortunately, that progressive goal that's what's being spread to other places. The Portlands, the Washingtons, the New York Cities, all of these very, very liberal.
Don't forget about Denver.
Well, I didn't want to bring it up, but we know that Denver is one of them. So for us, I have lots of friends that are Denver police, Denver sheriffs, and we talk about this in our national meetings that we have together. Is that, man, they start telling us what they're experiencing, and for us in California, we're like, man, we feel bad for you, but that was 12 years ago for us, and hopefully you guys can fight it off, because look at us now, and this is where you're headed.
Yeah, so I got drafted here in 2012. And I'm from Ohio originally. So Northeast Ohio, like south of Youngstown area. And when I got here, I was like, man, this place is like super clean, super safe. Like there's not really that many, like there's no homeless people. Like you see them every now and then, but they were just like hippies, really. Like they weren't like drug addicted psychopaths running around on the streets. Like it wasn't that's not what you were seeing. You weren't seeing these people have like mental breaks in the middle of the street on a Tuesday. Like you are now. You could go downtown. It wasn't overcrowded. It was set. You could leave your cars unlocked. I never had to worry about locking my door. Like I could leave my garage open, fall asleep in my garage open, and I'd wake up and be like, oh, no big deal. It just it was a really safe place. Now it's, every single neighborhood is infested with crime. Every single neighborhood. No one's safe from it. These crime, Trende Aragua was here, right?
Yeah.
The councilwoman who blew the lid off of all that. Mm-hmm. I spoke to her a lot about this, and she was like, the police weren't allowed to help us. Mm-hmm. Unless they could they had to send an armored vehicle and like 4 other police officers or something. Like it was like, what? Well, why? Why does it have to be that? Why can't you just go help people that need help? Isn't that your job? Isn't that like what they're supposed to be able to do? And she's like, they were not allowed to help us. Yeah. So you have average citizens being just ravaged by a Venezuelan gang, a violent Venezuelan gang running around with AK-47s and assault rifles, and you can't defend yourself against them. And you can't call anybody to help you. You just have to deal with it. And I've seen such an increase in crime. Like the auto theft has gone up, murder rate has gone up, literally. And this is just a 15-year period. It has been outrageous to me to see the change And it like back to the beginning of our conversation when I asked you about the blueprint, there's a book called The Blueprint. It was the Democratic ideology that was brought here 20 years ago. Yeah. And now we're starting to see what happens whenever those are implemented.
Absolutely. So I grew up in Utah, right next door to you. And for us, small town in Utah, going to Grand Junction, going to Denver, going to those places into Colorado, it was like, oh my gosh. I mean, that was the big city to us. That was the vacation that you could go to get away from the small town feel, go into these big cities. And it was beautiful. Red Rock. I mean, that was the concert venue. You had to go to Denver to go to the concerts. And it was just an amazing place. And it was not Democrat run then. And as we've progressed further, Denver has never been on one of the worst cities, on one of the most unsafe cities, but they're slowly rising up on that list in with all of the rest of the Democrat run cities. You look here for us, San Francisco, my personal opinion, San Francisco, probably one of the most beautiful cities in the world. I haven't been everywhere, but the places that I have been, San Francisco is amazing. The history, the sights, the sounds, the feels, the smells, everything about it was just amazing. Even the culture there, Chinatown and the different the areas that you have in San Francisco. The last 10 years, 15 years, it's been completely destroyed. We don't go there anymore. But that was my wife and I, that was our weekend vacation spot. Let's go to San Francisco for the weekend. We'll fly up there, have dinner, spend the night, breakfast, and come home the next day, just so we can go enjoy San Francisco. Now, the last time I went was the beginning of 2020. And I told her, you can't leave the hotel without me because I've got a gun and we're not going anywhere without you being protected. We walked down through the wharf and through the piers and all of that stuff. It was like a war zone. It was an absolute disgusting mess of human feces, people you didn't know whether they were dead or not on the street, cars stopping, asking you if you want to buy drugs, cops that would drive by that just did absolutely nothing. And the city was completely destroyed, boarded up. Businesses have left, the people have left, and that city has been completely destroyed by progressive agenda that liberal socialist progressive agenda destroyed Los Angeles. It destroyed San Francisco. It destroyed Oakland. It's destroyed New York City. I mean, I had a kid that my youngest boy went to West Point. And so we would go visit him. We would stay in Manhattan. We would take the train up to see him for the day and then come back and enjoy the night, go to a show or restaurants or something. Finally, we just quit. It's like, we're not doing this anymore. You've got to be armed everywhere you go. And it's these policies that are ruining these beautiful cities. And unfortunately, Denver is going to be another one if the people don't stand up and say, we're not going to do this. We're going to learn from someone else's mistakes and we're going to change paths and we're going to make it different and better here and avoid this agenda that the current government there has going for them. The city government, the mayors, I was so impressed with the supervisor that stood up and voiced all of the concerns about Tren de Agua and everything that was going on. And she's got 4 others that would not do it, that were, she's getting attacked for speaking up. Her name's
Danielle Jurinsky, in case anybody wants to know. I did an episode with her. She's
a rock star.
As a tough woman, man. She does not play that bullshit. It's great to have her.
All she's doing is standing up for what is right. Yeah. It's not even a political position. She's just standing up for the right thing. Yeah. And she was getting attacked for it.
Yeah. The governor, Polis, was calling her a liar.
Yeah.
It's insane. And there's video footage of it happening. And he's still like, nope, she's a liar.
Yeah.
And people they'll believe it still.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, this episode is brought to you by Black Buffalo. Black Buffalo's nicotine pouches do not contain tobacco leaf or stem. What they do contain is a ton of flavor, and they're packed with pharmaceutical grade nicotine. The magic of black buffalo is they discovered a way to make cured edible green leaves behave like the texture of tobacco. And they add food-grade ingredients for industry-classic flavors. You're in good company if you roam with the Black Buffalo herd. The business was built by dippers with decades of smokeless tobacco use. They manufacture their tobacco alternatives with respect for those products that came before them. Bold flavors, full pouches, metal lids, and a brand that stands for something: American. Their products are also proudly endorsed by brand ambassadors such as MMA Hall of Famer Cowboy Cerrone, NASCAR champion Brian Blaney, rising country star Larry Fleet, and Rob O'Neill, former U.S. Navy SEAL Team 6. So if you're 21 and older and you consume nicotine or tobacco and you want to join the Black Buffalo herd, head over to blackbuffalo.com to learn more. You can order nicotine pouches online, and they ship directly to most states. Or you can check out their store locator to purchase pouches at thousands of retail locations around the country. Black Buffalo, an American brand, pouches worth respect. This is the last thing I want to talk about before I let you go, brother. I want to talk about the immigration issue. Mm-hmm. Did you see during Biden's presidency? I mean, we just were flooded with, illegal immigrants just flooded into this country. And I'm not saying that every immigrant is a bad person, right? But if you just allow everyone to cross over and you let countries just empty their prisons, where do you think they're going to go?
Yeah.
Right. They're going to go to the land of opportunity. That's where they're going. And you give them an open border and let them just come across. What kind of uptick in crime did you see in your area?
The most disturbing was the organized crime. So the organized crime from all different countries, whether it was Venezuela, whether it was Chile, whether it was the Middle East, even Europe, these organized gangs that came in because it is the land of opportunity. And, Orange County, California is probably one of the richest counties in the country. Very wealthy people, nice homes. There's a lot to steal there if you are into organized crime. And so these Chilean gangs, the Venezuelan gangs, the European and the Middle Eastern gangs all flocked to our Southern California and set up shop for the smash and grabs in the jewelry stores and the Nordstrom and the big box stores where they just went in and unloaded everything and took it all with them. That we had a sharp increase with that. One of the things for us, though, is California has a large population of illegals anyway. So the immigrant community here has always been big. And what we saw with the open border, it was kind of a relief for me at the time. I didn't have to be all worried about all of these immigrants that were coming into our county or into Southern California. But what we realized is they were all coming across the border here, but Border Patrol was catching them and letting them go. The counties were trying to get ahead of it and either offer them services or whatever it was. But really, the state, this is a dirty little secret. The state of California and most of the counties were, rather than accept them all in, they would take them, make sure, hey, do you need medical? We'll keep you for a couple of days, and we'll take, if you need a doctor, you need a nurse, you need medication, you're sick, whatever, where do you want to go? And then we would fly them to wherever it is they wanted to go. Oh. So that whole mess, the political mess of where the Governor Newsom was attacking the Texas governor because they bust a whole bunch of illegals from Texas into California because we're a sanctuary state. And the governor said how horrible that was. Well, we've been flying planes into Texas for 3 years. So this was just something that just was not reported. But what we know here, especially my county, 95% of the immigrants that came in from across the border into my county, 95% went elsewhere. They weren't staying here. They were, and the sad part is they had addresses on little pieces of paper of where they were going. They had a phone number and an address in Ohio, in New York, in Maryland, in whatever it was. And so the county officials would call that number. Hey, are you yes, send them. And so they'd put them on a train or a bus or a plane and send them to that place. So I can't say that we really truly haven't been affected, at least in my county. Some of the northern counties were really affected because some of the people that came in went north, but the majority of them went to other states. They didn't stay in Southern California. So, and not, I mean, probably 10% stayed in Southern California. The rest went elsewhere. Crime-wise, we just saw those big increases in the organized crime. The immigrants that are here, for the most part, our immigrant communities, they're the ones that truly did come here, try and make their lives better, their families' lives better, and they do work hard. Whether they're wherever it is they're working, the hospitality industry or the farming. Yeah. We're a major farming industry in our county. So, or in Southern California, actually, and the mid part of the Central Valley of California supplies really more produce to the country than any of the other farming states that you would think would, that are from the Midwest and back east. But, I wouldn't say that my jail is certainly not overrun with illegal immigrants. Not even close. I think I haven't been updated for this month. Last month, out of 4,500 inmates that we have in our county, there were only 4 that were not citizens.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's good. I mean, that's good news. Here's what I think was happening is that they were trying to bus and fly all these people into certain districts across the country to try to, and then they were trying to make it so they could vote.
Yes.
And then they could make it, then they would get more electoral votes in certain areas for Democrats to hold power.
Yeah, you can, in the beginning when it was like, hey, it looks like all of this is happening, you were a conspiracy theorist. But then when you look back now and say, hey, man, that's exactly what was happening, all of a sudden the truth makes you no longer a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah. Yeah. Most of these conspiracies turned out to be pretty right. I mean, from COVID to illegal immigrants and anything in between seemed to be, pretty right. So,
yeah.
Well, Sheriff, I really appreciate the time and the conversation. And, I wish I could go for another 2 hours if we could, but I'm going to wrap this up and let you get on with your day, brother.
Very good. It was a great talking to you. I'd be willing to come back anytime you want. There's lots of stuff going on, especially talking about the comparisons between California and unfortunately what could happen to Denver and really even the whole state. It is something that we need to talk about.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, people take warning and kind of change their mindset. And I do see the Democrat, they're not polling great right now in Colorado.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and it's because Polis was doing things. I don't think he realizes how red the state outside of Denver and Boulder and like Fort Collins, and a little bit of Colorado Springs, outside of that area, the rest of the state is pretty red. I mean, so you have to think about what's going on there, and he reintroduced, him and his husband reintroduced wolves, and it created so many problems for these ranchers. And that really pissed a lot of people off.
Yeah. Virtue signaling without really understanding the consequences of what you're actually doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, cause if you go up to the average person, right, and say, hey, do you think wolves are cool? They're going to say, yeah. And they'll be like, well, you think we should have wolves in Colorado? They're going to be like, yeah, that'd be great. So they just sign the petition, and then it gets put on and then not enough people don't pay attention, and then it gets passed. And now we're going to suffer the consequences. I mean, they burned through their $400,000 war chest, or they had like a $400,000 fund to help the ranchers out. They burned through that and like that, because wolves are going to do what wolves do. And who's paying? You know who's going to pay the biggest price? The wolves. They're going to be the ones that suffer the most, because they're just doing what wolves do.
Yeah,
and that's to kill, and that's what they do. They kill. They're
that's
like the ultimate
every
killers.
Single day. That's their job every single day.
Yeah. So for us to be like, oh, well, they're killing cattle. Well, yeah. What'd you think was going to happen when you tossed these wolves into an area where they could, okay, I can go chase an elk that can go up all these crazy mountains, or I could just go kill a cow.
Yeah.
What do you think they're going to do? They're going to go kill some calves, because and they could teach their young how to kill, and they can practice. That's what they're going to do.
They've done it in California too. And now they're wanting to bring the grizzly bear back to California.
That is insane.
I know. but the wolves are getting so out of control up in the northern part of our state. There was a video going around last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. These wolves killed an elk on a person's porch.
Yeah.
And I mean, and people are like, oh my gosh, how did that happen? And it's like, well, what did you think was going to happen? Just what you said. It's like, well, everybody that understands what wolves are and understands the environment, everybody knew what was going to happen.
Yeah. And if you think wolves are bad, wait till you put grizzlies in there.
Oh yeah.
Grizzlies are another apex predator. So now California, so I'm a big bow hunter. I love to, I hunt with all kinds of weapons, but I love to bow hunt. So
Me too.
It's like one of my favorite things to do. It's like, I'm obsessed with it. And you know, I killed this big mountain lion a couple years ago. It was not far from Denver, and he was like, this lion was kind of a problem. When you get a big tom in an area, it creates a problem, right? He's a dominant tom. He's living in like a small little community, and there's other lions in there. So those other lions aren't getting to eat like the wild game, because that tom has like established dominance. And what happens is these other little toms, smaller, you know, subadult male toms, they end up killing dogs and stuff like that. And it's not a good situation when you're trying to, like, if we're going to live amongst the animals, we have to manage. It's our job to manage them.
Absolutely.
It's our job to manage that situation. It's good for the lion population, just as it is for the bears, right? Because big boars, what do? They go and they kill cubs so that the female will go back into heat. That's what toms do, the same thing. These big toms, they'll go kill cubs so that the females go back into heat. And if you kill a big mature tom, you've actually done something good for the lion population, for the deer and elk population, for the sheep population, for the local dog and cat population. Like, you've done something good, but people don't think of it that way because that's too logical. So they get emotional about it. And like, you killed a cat, like, and they lose their mind. Right. And that's something in California. I mean, that was like the original, that's where bow hunting originated in the US, was in California. And now it's like impossible to like do any kind of bow hunting there.
Yeah. They've made it extremely difficult. And it's the special interests and it's the environmentalists that are a very, very, very small group of people, but that's who has infiltrated government. And so all of the regulations and the rules are to appease that very, very small part of the population, even though it doesn't make sense. And you touched on something, you said, the emotion, people get all emotional. This is science. When you are able to invoke emotion from someone, they are no longer capable of common sense and reason. Mm-hmm. It is nothing but an emotional response, and common sense and reason that part of the brain is completely shut off. And that's why you see everything that's going on. Everything is about emotion. Everything is about anger and fear and all of those things, because if you're afraid of something, or if you're worried about something, or you're mad at something, you're not going to think, wait a minute, that doesn't even make sense. Why would I be mad at that? Or why would I not like that person? Why would we want to bring, like California? They can't figure out why there are no deer in California, but we can't hunt mountain lions. We can't hunt bears. Now they're bringing back wolves and grizzly bears, but they can't figure out why there's no deer. They blame it on the hunters. Yeah. It's like, it makes absolutely no sense.
It's just, I mean, growing up in the Midwest, right? If you wanted your deer population to thrive, you know what you had to do? You had to predator hunt. And we considered it like paying taxes for conservation, because a predator hunt for coyotes, you got to stay up late. You got to stay up all damn night and into the morning to get them things, because they're smart. And it's the same thing with wolves. And then like in Colorado, right? So they got rid of the spring bear season back in the 90s. Now the bear population is out of control, and you can only hunt them in the fall. You get like a month to hunt them, and it's like, and you can, and it's like, oh, you have to draw a rifle tag for it. So, I mean, bears can smell up. I mean, their nose is how they get around, right? They don't have great eyes. It's their nose that they survive on. So all it takes is for the wind to switch a little bit, and that thing's out of there. So to get into 20, 40 yards to a bear and sneak up on them, and you're not allowed to bait them. So how are you supposed to manage that? That's not manageable. It's not fair, you know, it's not fair to the deer and the elk. It's not fair to the bears. They're going to be overrun. It's, I don't know. I just would like to see a change there. And I think that it's switching. So we won a proposition here in Colorado this last election. It was 127. They tried to ban mountain lion hunting.
Yep.
So they tried to use me as the poster child as to why we should ban mountain lion hunting, right? Because look at this big football player with his giant mount. It was like a 220 pound cat. He was huge. And so I got this picture of me holding him, and I worked hard to get that mountain lion. I'm going to take a picture with him.
They had that picture all over the place.
It was everywhere. It was crazy. But I learned so much about what their true agenda is. And it goes back to banning guns.
Yes.
It all circles back to that, because if they don't care about deer and elk, they don't care about the animals. If we don't kill predators, predators will kill the ungulants. If there are no ungulants to hunt, you don't need a rifle. If you don't need a rifle, then we can ban guns, because that in their mind, they think that that's the only thing keeping these people armed, is that they are allowed to hunt.
Right.
They're missing the entire idea of the Second Amendment.
Yeah, it's that whole emotional thing. So common sense isn't used. So you're not using common sense. You're not using our ability to reason, our God-given brain abilities, because it's all about emotion. It's about the gun crimes, and it's about, oh my gosh, this mean, ugly gun, and why would you need that with 4 bullets in it? When you think like that, you're no longer thinking reasonably to come up with another solution for managing wildlife. And California is an absolute perfect example of how you don't manage wildlife.
Yeah, every video that I see of like a mountain lion like on somebody's porch, it's in California.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And then you see bears just walking around neighborhoods, harassing dogs and bothering people. It's like, bears are smart. Bears and lions are smart. They wouldn't do that if they thought that there was any kind of danger there. They're just
right.
Like lions see you long before you ever see them.
And they avoid you.
And they avoid humans, right? And I think it's because, anything walking on 2 legs in the wild, it's like so foreign to a wild animal. That's why they freak out. So, being 6'6", I find myself crawling around a lot, trying to sneak up on animals. But hey, I didn't know you were a big bow hunter, but I'm a part owner of an outfitting company now out in Grand Junction area.
Oh, very nice.
We've got a really good lease up there, and it's a good unit. So, hey man, not this fall, but maybe the fall after, let's stay in touch. Would love to have you come out and spend a fall with you, spend a September at least.
That'd be perfect. I normally go, I grew up in Utah, so I've been going back for 35 years now for hunting seasons, August for archery. And then if I draw out for a rifle hunt in October, I'll go back then too. But the last couple of years, we were talking about possibly looking for somewhere else to go. And then Utah, even for out of state, they just doubled the cost.
It's like
of a hunting license.
It's like $3,000 to go hunt an elk. Yeah. That's insane.
Yes, so my son-in-law, I taught him to hunt. I took them up there, and I got he got his first deer, and I told my wife, I'm like, man, next year I'm gonna have to pay for his way just for an archer. If you want to go hunt archery deer next year, it's $1,300.
It's ridiculous, man.
Yeah. So we were thinking about finding someplace else to go. So I might take you up on that. This year we're good, but next year I might take you up on that.
Yeah, let's stay in touch. Because we'd love to have you, man. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get Cash Patel up there this year.
Oh, that's awesome.
For a rifle elk. So, but man, I've got a spot that is some of the best archery elk hunting in the country, and it is. I'd be
all in.
Yeah, so I would love to have you, and we'll get that figured out, man. That'd be great. So, well, Sheriff, I appreciate the hell out of the time, man. I could once we talk hunting, we could go for another 2 hours talking hunting, because that's like my true passion. So,
probably so. Good deal.
Thank you so much for the time, brother.
You're welcome. Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks for listening to the Wolfe Untamed Podcast. Be sure to check me out on Instagram, DerekWolf_95. Check out the Wolfe Untamed Podcast on YouTube. You can listen on all the other platforms, as well as DerekWolf.com.